Welcome to Sales Players, the #1 podcast for top players in B2B sales.
Whether you're a seasoned pro or just starting out in the world of sales, this is the show for you.
We're all about bringing you fresh, actionable ideas to supercharge your rev gen game.
We dive deep into the mindset, habits, and tools used by top performers in the industry. Generate more leads, close more deals, and build wealth and financial security in B2B sales.
So if you're ready to level up, you've come to the right place. Join the conversation with other like-minded sales players and continue the discussion beyond the show.
Hit the subscribe button, tune into the Sales Players, and let's start winning together.
What's going on, sales players? It's Jesse here, and I want to introduce you to a genuinely cool product that we just learned about called Evie AI. It is a LinkedIn AI content assistant that was built to enhance your LinkedIn presence, increase your exposure and productivity as a seller. You can create personas, generate ideas, generate comments, craft posts, and 10x your LinkedIn presence. We actually had Joe, the founder, on the show, and he was kind enough to put together a special offer for sales players. There is a link in the show notes with more details. Go check out Evie AI. That's EVY AI.
Hey there, sales players. Today's episode is brought to you by our amazing new sponsor, Lemlist. Whether you're closing deals or nurturing leads, Lemlist is your all-in-one platform for personalization outreach that converts. Picture this. You craft a killer email campaign in minutes using Lemlist's intuitive drag-and-drop editor. Want to stand out? Lemlist is here to help with advanced personalization that lets you dynamically insert custom images, videos, and even personalized landing pages based on your persona. With Lemlist Analytics, you'll know exactly who opened, clicked, and replied to your emails. Join thousands of sales professionals who trust Lemlist to supercharge their outreach efforts. Use the link in the show notes below and start your free trial today. Your personalized outreach just got a whole lot easier. Happy selling.
So, folks, we're live here with Dan Goodman. Dan, welcome.
Thank you. It's great to be here, guys.
Awesome. So I think a really great starting point for anyone who maybe hasn't been following you on LinkedIn, tell us a little bit about yourself, your career, and how you got into what you're doing today.
Absolutely. Yeah, I am just someone who has always had an opinion and never been afraid to share it. Throughout my life, I've always questioned things. I've always wondered why things are a certain way. People told you because all that did was make me double down and want to push harder. I'm a very analytical person. I've got an undergraduate degree in finance. I have an MBA in entrepreneurship. I've worn dozens of different hats in different roles throughout my career in all sorts of industries. And I have really found my calling. I started this by I've been an advocate for salespeople my entire life. The people most closest to me have been very successful in sales. I have seen them get ripped off and stolen from commissions, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars. And I have helped them identify those errors and go back to their employer and get paid for them. So I launched a business called True Commish several years ago, and it was a commission audit service for sales reps to be able to verify commission pay, identify pay errors, and quantify them based on where they are in their comp plan and their performance and accelerators. That was like pushing a snowball up a hill in a desert. Salespeople were sort of gun shy about standing up to the man, sharing their sales information, being able to utilize it. They kind of want things done for them in a lot of ways, especially around nitty-gritty things like commissions and pay and spreadsheets and all that. It can give you a big headache. So, I started posting on LinkedIn. That's kind of how I was going to promote this business and me. I had no idea how to use it. I've never used social media in my life prior to this. In fact, I hated it with a passion. It's all about people talking about how much they have, which they really don't, to make other people jealous and envious of them. Didn't want to have anything to do with it. So I realized that in order for me to promote this business, I wasn't charging anybody for it. I didn't take any money. I wasn't getting a salary or anything. I said, I got to promote it. So I started posting on LinkedIn, had never used it before. The first couple of posts were nothing but a pitch slap. Got nothing. And finally, Scott Leese, my buddy, he told me how to use LinkedIn, how to go about it, and to be selfless and just put it out there and give away all the value and attract people to you. And that's what I started to do. So fast forward, so that my first post, my second post ever, a real post, got 128,000 impressions. And I had no idea what an impression was. Scott actually had to tell me what it meant. So fast forward 3 or 4 months, I put a post out about Severance. It got more than 400,000 impressions. and I've got 20 people reaching out to me, pleading with me to help them review their severance. I do this for about 3, 4, 5, 6 months, just helping people for free with PIPs, with severance, with strategy, with employment agreements. And then I had a call with some guy from Israel. It's a great story. So sorry for being a little long-winded.
Good. Go.
No, please.
Yeah.
But so the guy scheduled a call, and I'm I just want to talk to people, help people, just get out there. It doesn't matter who you are. So we get on a call. We're talking for a while. There's this U.S. operation that wants him to establish an office in Israel. And he's got an agreement that's in front of him. I reviewed it and said, dude, if you sign this and you kill it, they could just terminate you and you get nothing, and you've established this office for them. You need to put some stuff in here to protect yourself. So I told him that you should have some KPIs that when they kick in, it will automatically trigger a joint venture that he'll be a 50% owner of, or a subsidiary of the company. And he thought it was the greatest thing since sliced bread. He says, Dan, this is fabulous. You're great. What do I owe you for this time? I said, well, I'm just kind of out here helping people. I'm not charging anybody. He laughed for like 20 straight seconds. And then he called me this name in Hebrew. And he laughed some more. I said, what did you just call me? He repeats it. And I said, I have no idea what that means. So he tells me what it means. It says it means that you're a sucker. And I said, what do you mean I'm a sucker? I come out here and I give you all this great advice. I help you, whatever. Now you're insulting me? He says, exactly. Anyway, to make a long story short, we had some fun with it. We went round and round. He says, give me your Venmo. I said, I don't even have a Venmo. It's like, well, my wife does. So I gave her Venmo. He sends me $300 for like 40 minutes of my time. And literally from that moment on, that very moment, I started charging for my time. It was February 1st of 2023, and I have close to 1,300 paid clients in that time period. So I help out with employment agreements, restrictive clauses, severance, PIPs, stock equity grants, comp plans, commission or wage disputes, and general coaching and guidance and advice.
And one thing that I see just from your post, Dan, and I've actually referred you folks, this is going to be one of those episodes that you might want to bookmark. And if you're ever in getting a new job, if you're ever let go, if you are changing roles, you'll want to connect with Dan. Even just looking at he offers so much value, just like Alex Hormozy, just like Scott Leese. He puts it out there and he is impacting people's lives. And what I didn't realize is there's so much negotiation that you can have with the role.
Yeah. Yep. You can negotiate anything and everything, especially if you have leverage. Negotiate when you arrive. I tell people to negotiate your exit before you arrive. If you get offered a severance, never just sign a legal binding contract. The employer assumes that most employees don't even know you can negotiate. If they do, they don't want to bother. It's negative. It's backwards. They want to move forward. They've got another job to go to. If 50, 60, 70% of employees don't even bother, do you think the employer is going to offer their best offer in the initial offer? Hell no. No. You got to, and the problem is that most employees don't understand how to negotiate it. They don't put themselves in the shoes of the employer. They look at it only from their own perspective. The employer knows how long you've been there. They know the value that you've added. They know what you've done. They don't care. You got to show them why it's in their best interest to negotiate a better offer. And if they're unwilling to do so, what that looks like moving forward.
What are some ways you can do that? I'm just curious. I know a lot of folks in our community and myself included came off of a separation package last year, or in the last 2 years. It's been a rough market in tech. What are some things that you recommend folks do to negotiate a separation or a severance package? Or
I think in general, every severance should be negotiated. I think in general, employers offer about half of what they're willing to pay to see if they can get away with it. The first thing I would do is I would assess, is there any wrongdoing that has gone on here? Was it a good experience at the company? Did they promise everything that they were supposed to? Is it just bad economic terms, that you're not being targeted, that you're being treated just the same as everyone else, that there's no one who's done worse than you that's staying and you're being let go? If none of that exists, truly, if they gave you like a month for every year worked and a month's COBRA, you're doing pretty well. The standard is around 2 to 4 weeks. However, I can't tell you a single, maybe there's one or two. Maybe one or two out of about 400 people that I've worked with regarding on severance, that there hasn't been some sort of nefarious actions that are going on. There's always two stories. It's the story that they want to present to you about why they're letting you go, which differs from reality. And then there's the real reason that's driving it. I always tell people, I'm able to get on a call with somebody. In a matter of like 60 seconds, I can literally describe exactly what is going on with them at work. And their mouths are ajar saying, oh my God, how do you know this? And I tell them that the same thing plays out in every situation. They're all playing off the same playbook. And in some instances, it traumatizes them. Some instances it's good. They know that they're not alone. They're not being picked on. It resonates. This is happening to everybody else. But in other ways, it traumatizes them to realize that this is the system that we're all working in. And for me to be able to describe exactly what they've experienced to a T and knowing nothing about it scares the living crap out of them.
And Dan, are you from Boston? Are you a Boston Celtics fan?
Oh, you can't see my shirt. There we go.
All right. So, yeah, I would say one of the best shows that I watched this year was Winning Time. I just love that show. I don't know if you've seen it on HBO, but it's about the Celtics and the Lakers, and you embody like Boston strong. You embody, you're that guy that's going to go in there and just fight back and go take it to the man.
That's how I've been wired, man. Drove my parents crazy since I came out, but it is what it is. Take it or leave it. What you see is what you get with me.
And Dan, what are some tactics or things that employees should, what should I as an IC be capturing as I'm employed? What are some documents that I should be just keeping a track of, systems that you would just be like, hey, this is something that I would suggest somebody to be doing?
Yeah, I did a post about that a while ago. I'm going to do a more detailed one specifically around that topic. I have the same conversation with every single person, so rather than having the same conversation, I'll just refer them to the post.
Okay.
I would suggest, especially if you're in sales, set an alarm once every week, once every 2 weeks. Go take 10 minutes. That's all it takes. And gather up all your stuff. Update everything. Recreate your pipeline, both historical and moving forward. Gather your employment agreement. Gather your restrictive clauses, your comp plan. If you have any stock, get your stock plan and your equity grants. Get all your performance reviews. What I tell people is anticipate the reason why the employer may attempt to try to terminate you. What BS are they going to try to lay on you to do it? And then gather the evidence in advance to offset the claims that you expect that they're going to make to justify it. More often than not, it's about performance, but there's also other reasons that they come up with. And gather they'll say that you don't get along with others, or they'll say that you didn't go to meetings or whatever. Gather the evidence to show about how well you get along with others, how you've been praised by leadership in the past. They like to rewrite history. So I always tell people to do that. And then also document what's really going on behind the scenes. There's usually two stories that are going on around a termination. The one that they tell you to justify it, and the real reason that's driving it. So if you can anticipate and understand what those real reasons are and gather the evidence to support those conclusions, it's very powerful.
So when you say spend time every week gathering these, do you recommend folks, just to be really clear to listeners, do you recommend they save screenshots to a separate drive on their personal email, or what kind of tools do you recommend there?
Well, I tell them to be careful, because the last thing you want to do is to have the employer come back at you and tell them that you're downloading private information and sending it to your email and having alarms go off in the system. There's all kinds of different tricks out there on how to do it, whether you're taking a picture of the screenshot, whether you're using your cell phone with a native application on the phone and then able to do screenshots from there. I've heard other stories where people are on a termination call that they're expecting, and they call in on the Zoom rather than the computer. They put their computer on airplane mode, so when they go to remotely brick it, it's not online to be able to do so. And then you can grab your information at that point, download it all, and then when you turn it back on, all of a sudden the system instantly becomes bricked. I have run into about 3 folks that were terminated with severance that did go in and get information to support their claims. And then the employer got the alarm bell got off, and they changed the termination for performance to for cause, and then withdrew the severance offer. So you got to be very careful. They came to me after the fact and kind of said, "What do I do now?" I gave them some advice on how to go back about it. Obviously, they lost some negotiating stance, but they were still able to go back and get that severance offer.
Got it. So listeners, be extra careful in proceeding, but be smart, use your best judgment. That's why I asked. I wanted to make it really clear for listeners that it's a risk area. It's not, you don't want to go down that slippery slope, but you do also want to make sure you're, to your point, logging conversations, praise, or good or bad. It sounds like just trying to document in whatever way you can so that they don't change history on you.
Yeah, and your pipeline too. Get the policies. Yeah. Get your employee manual. Get the comp plans. Document how they have traditionally treated things in the past, and show that they're breaking precedent on how they're treating you. Right. So there's something else I want to dive into for a moment because you guys have kind of prompted me here.
Sure.
This story is going on all the time, and it's something that I want people to start thinking about and looking out for. Okay, what happens is that you come into a job, you're probably recruited from a good job that you'd still be at. The hiring manager loves you, you love him, you're hired, you're coming on board, everything's great, and then the manager leaves. Whether they leave in a month, 3 months, a year, 2 years, it doesn't matter. But as long as you're there with the hiring manager who hired you and you're doing a great job, they love you. As soon as they bring somebody else in, everything changes. You're not the guy who they hired. You do not have blind loyalty to them. They don't think that you're going to run through a wall for them. They want to bring their own guys in. So what happens is rather than being forthcoming and transparent and saying, hey, I understand you've been here a long while, you've added a lot of value, you're well respected, we appreciate all your contributions, but at this time we're going to go in a different direction. We value you very much. We're going to give you the next 2 to 3 months to remain an employee. You can continue to work and collect your commissions or not, or you can just take this time to go focus solely on getting a job. And after that period of time, if you haven't gotten a job, then we're going to give you a severance package, 2 to 4 weeks per year worked and some health care, and you'll go off. And you've eliminated all this aggravation, all this unknown. Instead of doing it the right way, they do the following. All of a sudden, everything changes. They used to ask you how your weekends were. They no longer do. They used to ask you about your family or your interests. That no longer happens. They're no longer thoughtful or kind or looking out for you. They're kind of cold and stern and distant. And all of a sudden you're picking up that it's no longer that much more fun being here and doing this. And they're sending you a signal that maybe you should leave. And then if you don't pick that up, then it escalates further. They now start nitpicking you about stuff that they never mentioned before, that other people are doing that doesn't seem to be a problem for them, but it is for you. They're now asking you about, and then the next step, now it becomes more formal or informal formally, meaning like they'll now start talking about specific things that you need to start focusing on or improving on that never mattered before. And then they'll put you on the pre-PIP and then the PIP. And this whole process drags on for like 3 or 4 months. And the employee is left wondering, what the hell is going on here? Why did things change? What did I do to deserve this? Trying to interpret the messages that are being sent rather than having the employer be honest and transparent about it and save everybody the mental strain, the anguish, and the wasted time. And then you want to talk about PIPs? They're never intended to improve, ever, ever. Come on, HR, come at me and tell me otherwise. I don't care. Yeah. It's true. If you really cared about improving performance, it wouldn't be based on the threat of termination with objectives that no one has ever been asked to meet that you already know is impossible to do. And that's like 99 out of 100 instances, okay? I didn't say 100, okay? So let's not play these games. Let's be honest and transparent. Treat people with dignity and respect. They'll be your biggest advocates and cheerleaders. There's nothing more than word of mouth, right? So if I'm a former employee, I was terminated, and I'm talking positively about how I was treated, you'll never get better advertisement than that.
Right.
I mean, it's just a no-brainer. And I mean, the PIP process, HR doesn't want to do it. Your manager doesn't want to do it. But everybody's got to waste their time creating the PIP, enforcing the PIP, monitoring the PIP, having these meetings, when everybody already knows that it's a predetermined outcome.
I know in the industry, they always say PIP stands for paid interview period. The intent is never improvement. It's not an improvement plan. It's a paid interview period to go start looking for your next thing, because they almost, what did you say, 99 out of 100 don't really end up well.
I mean, you're in an enterprise sales role with a 6 to 12 month sales cycle, and you're given 30 days to improve performance and close 4 new logos. Really?
I've literally seen that. I had a colleague who had a very similar PIP. It was just completely impossible. Enterprise sales, exact scenario. That's crazy.
It's the norm. It's not an outlier. It's the norm.
You really do know how to, you really do, like, you could talk to someone for 60 seconds and figure out exactly what's going on at work. That's wild.
No, that's exactly what I do. It blows people away, man. They get on a call with me. They may make a short call. Maybe it's a 15-minute call. Rather than having them sit there and spend 12 minutes telling them about the situation, I cut them off after about 60 seconds, and I tell them about their situation, and then we go on about how we can resolve it, and they're just like, holy smokes, what is going on here? How do you know this? And I'm like, because it happens every day in every company. I don't mean everybody. Most of them. A lot of them, okay? Yeah. And people want to really hold me to my absolute statements when they're made to make a point of emphasis.
One thing I want to talk about, Dan, and just speak out to the client or to our listeners, get advice soon. That is, don't wait. if you feel like that you're having these issues, it's better to have the conversation than just wait and not know.
It's an outstanding point you're making. This entire system is set up against the employee. The employers have lawyers that get paid $600, $800, $1,000 an hour to write one-sided legal agreements that only favor the employer. That they have human resources professionals who've gone to school for this, who've got master's degree in this, who have done hundreds, if not thousands of these. The employee has never experienced it. They have no idea what their rights are, what the process is, if they're being trampled on. They're left on their own. It causes incredible angst and anxiety and stress. So I couldn't agree more. Don't go at it alone. That's why I literally have created this practice, so that I can help level the playing field and give employees a chance to stand up to it, a chance to be heard, a chance to be able to put this behind them and not have years or decades of regret linger on because of the way they were treated, and then they did nothing about it and walked away a victim.
To Chase's point, being just proactive about the whole process, you mentioned earlier that you advise clients to plan their exit before they enter. You said it more eloquently than that, but what are some things, let's just say someone out there listening right now has got an offer on the table. They're in either negotiation. Yeah, they're in the negotiation phase of their offer, but they're super excited. Great hiring manager, hot company, huge comp package on the table here. What are some things to help sort of slow that down? This is where I find myself in these situations. I get so excited that I'm just like, yeah, send me the DocuSign. I'm ready to go. I don't want to wait another minute. And I get very excited, very attached. And in the past, I've had mentors say, you need to slow it down in those situations a little bit more and make sure that you've covered all the bases and done all the due diligence. So what are some things that people can do to be thinking about planning their exit? And I don't think a lot of ICs also know this. I think some executives are savvy enough now where they know that when they come into an organization, they need to think about how to exit that organization and what the runway is going to look like on the back end. But I don't think ICs ever get that training. Maybe it's because they're just not connected to the right mentors, or they don't use your services. And for whatever reason, we don't ever get that chapter of the book or that training. So what are some things that folks can do to prep for that outcome, which is frankly inevitable?
Yeah,
you're always no one stays anywhere for 20, 30 years anymore. So you are going to be changing. Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm working with people, a majority of the folks, when they've already been let go, right? So I know what we're negotiating for. I know what's important to the employees. So why don't we negotiate for all that up front when you're joining, rather than when you have leverage, rather than when they don't want you anymore and they're terminating you based on, and you have very little leverage at that point, other than sort of the threat of public exposure, or if you're in a protected class, to go after them legally. Or trying to play empathy about how you were treated and the value that you brought, which they can easily dismiss. So, one of the things that I tell folks is that you can't just leave a good job and then, leave all this equity, pipeline, tenure on the table to go somewhere based on false promises and then end up getting terminated 3 months later. And now you're out in incredible. I had a guy who was at a publicly traded cybersecurity company. He was there for like 8 years. He left like the equivalent of $800,000 of in-the-money equity on the table to take his first leadership VP role at a startup, and was terminated in 3 months and had nothing. I mean, it's just brutal. So what I tell folks is that if you have leverage, i.e. that you're in a good job that you're willing to stay at, i.e. that you're in great demand and are a known commodity and they want you, then utilize that leverage. So you can't take a risk of walking away from a sure thing to then go somewhere and be terminated in 3 months. So I have seen private equity firms offer this initially in employment agreements. I have also worked with a number of employees to have them include this language in there. But basically, you should be given a year. No one would ever consider taking a job if there was a chance they could be terminated in a year. I mean, I'm working with someone right now who's terminated 2 months. So what I tell them is saying, look, I need to protect myself. I know that you guys are great guys and we all love each other and we're all one big happy family. That's never true, okay? But if they're unwilling to commit to you as they're asking you to commit to them and everything that you're giving up to come here, then I would question whether it makes sense to do so. So I say, put a clause in your agreement. If you're there 6 months and they fire you, they got to pay you out a 6 month severance. If you're there 9 months and they fire you, they got to pay you out of 3 months severance. If you're there 2 months and they fire you, they got to pay you out of 10 months severance. Everyone should have a right to do their job and to do it well and have a chance to fail before they're discarded and walk away and left unemployed and have walked away from lucrative opportunities that they were leaving. So that's my take. Other things, we can go one at a time. If there's equity involved, right? The first thing that we do when people are leaving is to try to negotiate having more time to exercise those options. So why don't we get that up front when we're joining? Instead of the standard 90 days, ask for a year, ask for 3 years. Nobody's in a position when they're terminated to come up with a whole bunch of money to pay for these shares that might not be worth anything. Buy yourself some more time to be able to assess the likelihood of that options, those shares ever being worth anything, rather than the emotional moment when you're being terminated and need money and don't know when the next paycheck is coming in.
Right? Okay, tell me if this sounds like you. You're a sales hunter with literally hundreds of target accounts in your territory and no idea who in your patch is even in the market for your solution. You've pulled all the reports, built all the lists, and you've done a bunch of account research, but you're still in the dark about where to find your low-hanging fruit. And look, you could waste another quarter smiling and dialing, grinding through a cold list, and blasting out emails, or you could do what I do and get Leadfeeder. Leadfeeder identifies the companies that visit your company's website and tracks on-site activity so you can see which leads from your region are ready to buy right now. Leadfeeder has customizable notifications, lead scoring, routing, and it works seamlessly with your CRM system. Right now, Sales Players has got the hookup on an extended 21-day free trial offer, so be sure to use the link in the show notes to sign up. Oh, and you should probably forward that link over to your ops team so they can get Leadfeeder set up for your whole team. Stop burning time and resources on leads that don't convert and sign up for Leadfeeder.
Right? Yep. If you're in sales, don't sit here and blindly accept that, oh yes, let me verbally tell you what your comp plan is. Let me tell you about how much money you're going to make. And then you show up and then you finally get the agreement and there's no reasonable, realistic path to come close to the number that they lured you to come in here with. If you were an executive and you've got a $250,000 compensation package, are you only going to be guaranteed the 125 and you will figure out the other 125 later as part of your base salary? No. So I don't know why it's okay for salespeople to have to suffer like this. It often represents more than 50% of their compensation, and it should be transparent. It should be easy to understand. It should be attainable. It shouldn't be a shell game, and they shouldn't play games with it. And it happens all the time.
Dan, I want to ask a question real quick. What happens, and I was at a previous role where the quota and the commission kept changing every 3 months. It was just like they were picking a number out of the hat and asking me to sign a agreement. And I'm like, where are you coming up with this? And okay, interesting. What should you do in that standpoint?
Well, first I'll let you know what they're doing here, okay? I've seen this happen all the time. It's very prevalent right now. So the company wants to be able to pick and choose who they want to terminate. And what they do is that they intentionally set quotas so high that the top performer is only hitting 60%. And everyone else is at 40% or lower. So now, when times get tough, they lose a big deal, the economy is getting worse. They now don't need to do these formal across-the-board layoffs that are now become public knowledge that's negatively reflected on the company. Instead, they put all the onus on the individual employee with all the stress and anxiety by putting them on these false PIPs, by keeping quota intentionally low to be able to justify terminations because of performance when they're performing better than 70% of everybody else. It's just you intentionally keep quotas so high that nobody is meeting these unrealistic goals. What can you do? Get the hell away from this company. Mm-hmm. Honestly. Yeah. They have no respect for the role. Their goal here is to basically steal your income and continue to move the bar. If you're a field goal kicker, the kick is in the air. How would you feel if they move the goalpost in the middle of the kick? That's literally what's happening here.
I'm so curious, just from your perspective, Dan, and you may not have an answer to this. It's kind of an abstract question, but is this really that, and you kind of alluded to this earlier, but this is intentional on the part of these exec leaders or these companies, these organizations, that they design it this way. And I know it's not the case in every situation, but it sounds like it's an intentional thing that's done so that they can cover their ass later if they need to go through a layoff round, rather than go through a layoff round they just point to the folks that are under the bar of performance.
It's worse than that, man. These folks don't have any respect for the sales role. Sales is viewed as a blue-collar position in a white-collar world. These big-wig execs with their big degrees and everything else look down on the sales folks, that they have it easy, that they can make so much money. That's what the issue is. That's why they feel that they can just change the comp plan mid-year. That's why they feel that they can invoke windfall or waterfall clauses to steal earned compensation. That's the problem, is that there's a general lack of respect for the role as seen by the C-suite.
Just for listeners, they may not understand windfall or waterfall clauses. Can you explain what that is?
Yeah, so we haven't talked about comp plans. So the comp plans, they like to give this impression that it's a legal binding agreement so that you can abide by it while they don't have to. At the back of the comp plan, at the very end of it, there'll be language that says, oh, by the way, we can change the plan anytime we want, with or without reason or cause or notification. So how is that a legal binding contract? It couldn't be further from the truth. It's literally the opposite of a legal binding contract. But yet they make you think that that's the case. Okay? I'm sorry, give me your question again. I went off on a little tangent there.
No, you're good. So it was basically just like, is this
what is the language of the waterfall? What is
what's a windfall?
Waterfall. Thank you. So basically, what a windfall clause is basically the C-suite executives never want to see you make more money than they do. Okay, you're a lowly sales guy who gets to go wine and dine and go to sporting events. Okay, on their dime, by the way. So when they see that you're about to make $1 million off the comp plan that they never intended that anyone would ever come close to doing, but they simply dangled this carrot to motivate you to keep working harder, then they invoke a windfall clause. And basically what they're saying is that you made more money than we expected. You broke the comp plan. The comp plan didn't account for this deal. So rather than paying you on the supposed legal binding agreement that you signed, that they published, that they came up with, that they forced you to sign, we're going to change it in the middle of it to pay you 20 cents on the dollar on that deal that you were supposed to make $200,000 on.
I've heard even bigger. I actually know someone who closed a deal in the tens of millions. And if you just try to do the math, let's call it 10% of that, obviously huge commission, but was capped out at some significantly lower amount. I think he fought it. He had enough grounds to take it to court or whatever civil court anyway. And I think he won, but yeah, it's crazy how often that happens.
You said you wanted some stories, guys. That is a story I got. This is what I reposted this actually. A guy who I know very well. He was a repeat client of mine actually. This guy was a rock star enterprise rep. He was at a startup. He sold a $10 million deal to a client, which was actually a very large networking company. About 2 weeks before the paper was going to be signed, complete done deal, management realized that they were going to owe this guy $1 million based on the comp plan. They came in and they terminated him out of the blue. No warning, no notice, no nothing. Nothing. No severance, nothing. When the vendor, this large networking company, found out, they canceled the agreement. They canceled an existing contract that they had because the startup was so stupid that they gave them an out clause. Okay? They had to lay off 25% of the entire company within 3 or 4 weeks of this happening because the grubby, greedy management team would not allow this guy to earn that money off the comp plan that they published. And they lost $10 million sale rather than paying out $1 million commission. And they didn't even give him a chance to even attempt to negotiate it. They just terminated him. He would have been like, man, I would have taken $250,000 and stayed and kept going.
That's right. It's like, just talk. That's amazing. Wow.
How short-sighted. So if any execs are out here listening, just take that as a lesson that you don't want to be short-sighted on this. You don't want to churn $10 million customer deal and then have to lay off more people and, really screw yourself up.
And
that company may not make it now, where they appeared to be on track to do so. I mean, this would have been one impressive client to be able to have in their portfolio, if you know what I'm saying.
Yeah. So
Dan, it's just shocking how short-sighted these people can be.
I mean, we've really been harping on salespeople, and I know that we've had a lot of founders, a lot of like new companies, startups. So talk to us about like what do you suggest these folks to be thinking about when they are going to hire their first salesperson? How do you advise that type of client, and like when you are ready to hire an IC or a VP of sales, like what do you really need to be thinking about? How do you, as an employee or employer, really make a good choice and be fair for yourself and for the team?
I mean, really, I see this mistake happen all the time. I mean, it's like, because you're the passionate founder who created this business, you're able to go out there and sell a few deals, and that you think you've created a repeatable cycle. Yet you haven't. It's your passion, it's your connection, it's your network that you're selling this to. So the first thing I would say is make sure that you're ready and in the right place to bring on that sales leader or that salesperson. Make sure that you give them the autonomy to be able to run with it. Make sure that you give them the space and time to do it. I mean, the thing that I see most in these situations is that these narcissistic CEOs that are getting pressure from every corner, they just pass it right on to their underlings. It's like if you happen to be in their line of sight when that wind blows in a different direction, you're in their scope and can potentially just get terminated on the spot. I mean, I've seen this happen dozens and dozens of times. So I think that the founder or the CEO needs to be realistic with themselves, what stage that the company's at, what stage the product's at, the sales are at. Have they created a repeatable sales cycle or model that someone can come in and do that hasn't been the founder, that hasn't been that passionate leader, vocal leader about the solution, and then give them the time to execute. I mean, there's nothing harder than being a sales guy in an early startup that's a disruptor and creating a new space. And the folks that are able to do that successfully, I think, are the greatest salespeople in the world. And when you get someone who's good at it, value them, reward them, praise them, and give them the chance to succeed. And don't be impatient and apply the stress that you're feeling from outside sources onto them.
Mm. And Dan, what are some things besides like agreements, contracts, like do you suggest just to the average employee, like are there some things that I can do just with my paycheck to like keep back some savings to make sure that you're planning for the future, that like these oh shit moments really make sure that you have some runway?
Yeah, I mean, that's the first question I ask people when we start an engagement. I first ask them, what is your desired outcome? So do you want to stay or do you want to leave? If you want to leave, do you have to have another job in hand before you do so? Obviously, if that's the case, it's going to delay what we're doing significantly. If they can afford to bring this to a head and risk being out of work for several months financially, they're in a much stronger position. I see people that are suffering mentally, and their only choice is either to resign or to stay in this role that's harming them while they look for a job in the meantime. So I think it's a great suggestion that you're bringing up here, is that plan for the worst, assume the worst and be pleasantly surprised when things work out. I tell people when they accept a job to keep interviewing for another 3 months, and maybe that dream job will come. A lot of people feel bad, like, hey, they extended me a job. I can't keep looking. I've made a commitment to them. You know what? I mean, I used to have that thought process too, and it's the right thing to do. And people say don't do the wrong thing because someone else is doing the wrong thing. I get it. You got to protect yourself. I'm sorry. There's bigger things at stake here. There's your housing. There's your food. There's your family. There's your bills. There's your livelihood. And you can't just leave it to trust that someone's not going to take advantage and screw you over.
So a few years ago, one of my parents, I won't say which one it was giving me a hard time.
50-50 shot there.
Yeah. They know who they are, and I don't think they listen to the show. But I had left a job after, not very long, couple years or whatever. And this parent said, is there just no loyalty anymore to the company? And they're from a different generation than I am, obviously, and most of our listeners. But is company loyalty just completely dead at this point? And then what's the future look like? Are we heading towards a world where we're all 1099ers because companies just don't want to pay benefits and stock compensation and those sorts of things? What's your take there?
Yeah, I mean, we all tell people to get away from the corporate world so they don't have to deal with this crap. But ultimately, who are you going to sell your services to? Right. So you're going 1099 to do a role outside, but if there's no one left to serve anymore, I mean, I don't know. I mean, one thing I do want to mention too, to go off a little bit, a slight tangent here, is talking about top performers, because I'm getting these notes from people all the time on my content and DMs, not believing that these top performers are being targeted, not believing that people who just year after year are killing it, that they could be just dismissed. I would never have believed it either, honestly. If you asked me a year and a half ago, I would have told you that you're crazy, it's an outlier, it doesn't make any sense. It literally is happening every single day to top performers. These short-sighted, selfish, greedy managers, leaders, they're literally, they need to make their number. They're looking across the board here. They've got their quarterly bonus that they're counting on. And they say, hey, Joe here has this massive pipeline. He's got this deal that's going to close soon. Terminate him and take that commission right to the bottom line. And now all of a sudden we've intentionally inflated our performance. We're misleading our investors and our board. And now that manager who doesn't deserve it is making his quarterly bonus, and the rep is terminated, not getting paid for all the work that he's done, and is left traumatized with broken trust. This same thing has played out hundreds and hundreds of times that I have personally heard of. I have posted about it dozens and dozens of times. People get on my thread and they just can't believe it. It doesn't make any sense. It didn't to me either. These people are sociopaths who do this.
Dan, I want to talk. One question I have, and you led off with our conversation about this, of how you have leveraged your LinkedIn to just driving your business. And I would like to just learn, and you just give some suggestions to our audience of how you've really driven your business completely off of organic LinkedIn, and just for people to really realize that there is, you get business out of LinkedIn. People are watching.
It's unbelievable, man. I would have never believed it. I'm an old guy. We were taught a certain way of doing things from the beginning of the time. It's literally opposite as how things work today. I was always taught, you got to tell everybody what you do. You got to tell everybody what their problem is and how you can solve it. And how would you not do that? 100% of my business is generated solely through LinkedIn posting. I've had well over 1,200 paid clients in less than 18 months doing this right now. Wow. I have had 2,700 people fill out a type form that gathers background information about their situation. Just what I have learned, and I would never have thought this for a moment. I would have told you that you're literally crazy for even suggesting it. I literally give away 100% of my value for free every day on LinkedIn. I do not hold anything back. That literally is the way to do it. I have proven to the audience that I am a subject matter expert on this, that I am passionate, that I am here for all the right reasons. And by giving this content, they have no doubt. And I have people, without ever having speak to me, come to my website and are paying me 4 figures to engage my services on certain matters, knowing nothing but who I am on LinkedIn and nothing else. I do podcasts. I have not spent a dime on outbound. I have not spent a dime on promotion. It works. I never believed it worked. I would have never thought about giving out value. I've never thought about any of this stuff. It's a new model. It works. I'm proof of it. I'm an old dog that they taught new tricks to, and I am so grateful for it.
And one thing that you just do so well is meshing with Scott Leese and really I know Scott repost your stuff, you all comment back and forth. And I think that social value, that social proof is so important of just, we can trust you, Dan. You're the guy to go to.
Yeah. I mean, I'm here. I've been here every day for 18 months. I've been posting every day now for over a year. I've been posting twice a day now for the last 4 months. I've driven 38 million impressions since August of 2022. And that was starting from scratch, having never posted before on any social media platform. In the last 90 days alone, I've driven 13 million impressions. It's just taken off. People are putting posts out there almost daily about me, my impact, my business, having helped folks before. I can't be more grateful for the community. It's changed my life. It's given me purpose. Every day is an amazing day. I'm just blessed.
Yeah. Well, I think your content, we were talking about this, I think before we hit record on the episode, but your content just strikes a chord. Everybody's afraid to talk about this stuff in a lot of ways. And just to touch back on what you said earlier too, is so many of us have this mindset that as long as I'm the top of the leaderboard, I don't have to worry about this stuff. I can just keep doing what I do and I won't have to think about this. But you're saying that is absolutely not the case. You can kill it. You can be bringing in a $10 million deal. And because of how irrational we are as humans, things can change in a minute. And so I think it's just an amazing lesson. Obviously, your content's really striking a chord. I know that I follow along very closely on your posts and read the stories, and my stomach drops all the time when I read them, unfortunately. But I've always been of the mindset that it's better to be prepared and to come to terms with what reality is instead of stick my head in the sand and say, it'll all be fine as long as I'm on the top of the leaderboard. Everyone will take care of me, and I can stay at this company for 25 years and retire with a gold watch. Like, it just doesn't work that way anymore. And so I think it's so much better to just be prepared and have the tools to do that. So on that note, where can our listeners reach out to you if they're finding themselves in a situation where they could use your services? We are certainly going to promote your LinkedIn in the show notes, so everybody should definitely give Dan a follow. It's a worthwhile person to follow on social media. But where can folks learn about your services specifically?
Yeah, I mean, I actually, believe it or not, started this whole business and ran for almost a year with no website. So we've got the website. We got videos of me passionately telling you to stand up for yourself, talking about each of the different practice areas that we work with. There's a form there that you can click on to get started. You'll fill out the background form. You'll get sent some information to reach out. And that's how you can get started with us. Obviously, LinkedIn is where my business is being driven 100% through. I live in my inbox all day long. Wow. It'd be great if they made it a little bit more useful. So I'm here. My email is dan@dangoodmanea.com. The website is www. Did I really need to say that? dangoodmanea.com. I'm a passionate guy here. I'm willing to get on a call with anybody and help them out. Obviously I can't do unlimited free calls. My day is filled with paid calls, but anyone who needs a few minutes, whether it's an email or whether it's a couple of quick minutes, or if you need to book a 15-minute call, it's very, very inexpensive to have access to my time.
Any final words of wisdom for our listeners before we wrap up here?
Yeah, man. The biggest thing I got to tell you is don't have regret. Mm-hmm. Do not carry regret with you. It will last with you a lifetime. Stand up to the wrongdoing. Call it out. We need to stop this together. Okay? The leaders, the folks in power get away with this because we all walk away in silence and enable them to continue to do it. It's our fault. We need to make it difficult for them. More expensive to do the wrong thing, not save them money by doing the wrong thing. We need to bring shame and exposure to these situations so that it's in their best interest to do the right thing and not continue as the way things are. It's damaged a lot of people. I have witnessed it firsthand. People don't realize it until they experience it. That a lot of people dismiss it and say, oh, pull up your pants, toughen it up, what have you. This is a real thing. People are traumatized, and it stays with them a lifetime. We need to stop this now for everyone.
Dan,
amen.
Gosh, I don't know. What you just said struck a chord. I call myself a recovering entrepreneur turned SaaS sales executive. And I think we might need to have a paid therapy session just because of the stuff that happened to me back in the day with my business of just dealing with corporations and not paying a contract for 90 days. And it put me in a very bad situation. And then
it's really funny you just said that because while I'm not a therapist and I'm not a lawyer, I literally had a call with somebody who was just such an impressive person yesterday. Said, Dan, I've been following you on LinkedIn for years. Well, I've only been doing it for like a year and a half, but I've been following you on LinkedIn for years. And she literally said, I booked this call because I wanted to basically share my story with you, get your feedback, and have this be a therapy session. I was just like, okay, let's go.
All right.
So you just reminded me of that when you said that. I haven't had too many like that.
I've got to book my time, and thank you so much for coming on. And
Dan,
this has been just amazing.
Great stuff, Dan. Thank you so much for sharing with our listeners.
Absolutely. It's been a pleasure, guys. I really enjoyed it. Thank you for having me.